Welcome, beautiful people. It is Zipmouth Motivation. And guess what, y'all? I got a guest. I'm so excited. I have a guest. Y'all know I get really excited when I have a guest because I love to hear different perspectives and I love to see like what's going on in the world with other people. So I'm just going to give you a piece of information, not nothing big because y'all know I like people to tell their own story. But this is somebody famous, okay? This is somebody very, very famous. And he has a book and it's called Longevity Lifestyle. So in the next few minutes, I want you all to support. Ask those questions, get in his inbox and get the book. Please get the book. Just get the book. We'll be back in 30 seconds or less. Welcome. We have Andrew Panella. Y'all, I had to work on that name because y'all know my name is bad and I always butcher other people's names. So Andrew, tell us where you're from first. Where are you from?
I am from Massachusetts, roughly 30 minutes north of Boston, almost New Hampshire.
Are you snowed in right now?
Well, I currently live a little bit farther south. I'm in like the sort of like northeast of Connecticut. So yes, I am still in New England though. So still snowed in.
Oh boy. Well, I'm sorry. I'm in Florida. So it's 33 degrees. That seems cold to me. Okay. We don't have snow, but I feel cold all day actually. So you are the founder of the Longevity Lifestyle. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, well, I picked the name because I've become, through my own health journey, extremely passionate about empowering people to be healthier on their own terms. And the reason I like the name Longevity Lifestyle is because there's a lot of people out there that are talking about the supplements, the biohacks, all the exercise protocols that you need to do to live the healthiest, longest life. And through 10 years of researching and hands-on experience working with people, it always comes down to nailing the basics, the lifestyle basics. And so that's why I chose the Longevity Lifestyle as the name of my brand and the movement I'm trying to start and the book that I just wrote, because I truly believe that optimal health and longevity starts and ends with lifestyle choices.
I love that. Okay, lifestyle choices. What was your personal, what is the personal moment or experience that led you to create this longevity lifestyle movement?
Yeah, well, if I rewind over 10 years ago to my mid-20s, I was dealing with a lot of chronic inflammation at the time. I was over 50 pounds overweight. I was dealing with chronic sinus infections. I had a bunch of different surgeries. I ended up needing knee surgery a couple times, surgery on both my hips. And at the time, in my mid-20s, I'm exercising fairly regularly. I feel like I'm eating pretty healthy. I just cannot figure out what is going on in my body that is causing all of these issues and this breakdown. And long story short, I'm going to see all of these doctors and these specialists. I'm getting these surgeries. I'm getting these medications. And it really wasn't until I just started to do research and reading into human biology, psychology, physiology, everything to do with the human body, that I started to realize that I had some major gaps in the basics in my life. And so as I started to implement those and see just an amazing personal transformation, that just gave me this enormous passion for trying to help other people do the same exact thing. And so it started with family members and friends and colleagues, and now has blossomed into helping tons of people online through educational content, helping people one-on-one with coaching, helping people that just want to do it on their own terms if they're willing to read a book. So anything I can do to help people just regain and control their health on their own terms. That's what my mission is.
I love it. When people hear chronic illness, they often think about, they think that it's permanent. How do you challenge the belief without giving false hope? Excuse me.
Yeah, well, one of my really deep beliefs is that the human body wants to be healthy. Our default state is vibrant health, where we wake up and we have energy and we're motivated and we feel positive. And unfortunately, all of the inputs that go into that, as a society, we've gotten away from a lot of those. And part of that's just because of what it requires to live in the, the
Right.
modern age. It's really hard to live without a phone, right? It's almost impossible. I mean, you need a lot of space to grow your own food, to be outside
Right.
all the time. And so we've gotten away from a lot of these basic inputs, but that doesn't mean that our body has adapted to thrive without them. So again, I come back to that really deep belief that our bodies want to be healthy, they want to thrive. And it's really a mismatch of the environment and the inputs that a lot of us have on a day-to-day basis, myself included, that
Right.
lead us to those chronic illnesses. And so identifying and then making some changes, even minor ones, can do a lot for helping people reverse chronic disease.
Right. And I believe that because I lately I don't know why I've been on this thing of like health and watching people. I don't eat meat, but I don't want to say like I'm like a real health nut. I just don't eat meat, like I'm just not big on those things. I'm not big on a lot of things, but um I've been watching a lot of people are they're saying like I'm being healed from cancer from doing this. Excuse me. I also have allergies real bad, so that's another reason why I'm like big on health. But so I've been watching them say like, I don't have high blood pressure anymore and all these like chronic illness that, and so I'm watching them and I'm like, well, what'd you do? Like, what'd you do? And they're like, nothing. I just changed the way that I ate. I started walking. I started doing like basic things. And I was like, okay, I like it. Nothing
Yeah.
like real technical. I'm like, well, did you get a personal trainer? Nope, can't afford that. Did you do this? Nope, I can't do that. I'm like, okay, so you just did the basic things. Cool. I like it. You emphasize mindset in your coaching, right? What mindset patterns do you see most often keeping people stuck in chronic illness or low energy? And do you talk about these things in your book?
I do. So the book actually starts opening up with a chapter called Thinking Like a Scientist. And the basic point of that chapter is to try and encourage people to look at their lives and their health and their day-to-day experience
Right.
as an experiment that they can modify, right? The scientific
Mm.
method is coming up with a theory or a hypothesis for why something is happening and then implementing some tests. So a simple example might be you're not sleeping as well and you feel like it might be because you're scrolling social media before you go to bed, right? That's a common one that people talk
Right.
about. And so you just implement a test where every day for a week, you're going to try and cut off your screen for an hour and see if your sleep improves. So I start the
Mhm.
book with how to think like a scientist, but then there's a whole section of the book that really dives a little bit deeper into mindset and mindfulness and emotional health, which I think is something that a lot of people overlook. And
Right.
so when I'm working one-on-one with clients, I find myself a lot talking with clients about the dialogue that you have going on in your head, right? So
Absolutely.
encouraging people to embrace the fact that the voices that you have going on in your head, thoughts that come across your consciousness, they
Mhm.
don't define who you are. You
Yes.
get to choose what you engage with, right?
Absolutely.
And acknowledging that is step number one to starting to rewire some of those mental algorithms to
Mhm.
just give yourself more opportunity and make yourself more empowered to make better choices and ultimately just live up to your potential, right? So I talk about that a lot in the book. I talk about that even more in my coaching programs when I'm working with clients, but every battle in your life is first won or lost in the mind. I believe that a lot.
I well, I do mindset coaching, so I definitely believe that every battle is lost or won. It's lost or won in your mind, and so you are the creator of that space. I like how you're bringing it into the body too, because it's important. Like once I always tell people, like once you start conditioning your mind, then everything else kind of follows with that. Whether it's your health, whether it's a new job or career, or anything like that, it kind of follows through with it. How do you balance the science back, like how do you balance the science versus real life? Like what people see initially were, basis going towards the theory. Like, okay, this is a theory. Maybe I'm up too late, but then the reality is they know they're up too late. So how do you fuse the two for them?
That's such a good question. And I love it because everybody is so different, right? The
Mhm.
path to getting healthier and feeling your best, looking your best, just living your best life is
Right.
different for everybody. So even though one person may really face severe sleep disruption from looking at their phone late at night, I
Right.
know some people that look at their phone pretty late at night. They're scrolling social media and they are out like a light, right? So
Right.
some people have a tolerance for certain things that
Mm.
others don't, but there are always trade-offs too that I think are really important to be aware of. So nobody is immune to certain things, but there are obviously major differences in our biology and in our environment that determine which things are going to work best for us. Another
Right.
thing I think is really important to point out is just overall capability from a
Mm.
schedule standpoint or from a socioeconomic standpoint, right? Like one thing I find myself talking to clients a lot about is the amount that they're able to move and exercise throughout the day, right?
Right.
If I were to tell you that the data says you want to be moving minimum 150 minutes per week. So if you break that down 5 days a week, 30
5 days a week.
minutes,
Yeah.
going for a walk, right? Some people's schedules make that really difficult, even to find 30 minutes. Like if you have a full-time job and you have kids and you're just dealing with a
Right.
lot on your plate, like some people are like, what do you mean? I don't have 30 minutes to go and walk. And so in those scenarios, I think it's really important that people acknowledge, yes, that data exists, but
Mhm.
also, yes, there is a way to accomplish the similar benefits and the
Mm.
outcome without having to do just a 30-minute walk or structured
Right.
exercise every single day. So that's a lot of what I help people with. And also a lot of
Mhm.
the frameworks and the tips that I share in my book are all about helping people personalize this stuff and figure out what's going to work for you, because
It's
that's
gonna
different than
be
what might work for someone else.
absolutely. Absolutely. How does corrective exercise differ from traditional fitness, especially for people dealing with pain, fatigue, or chronic conditions?
Yeah, another great question. So, one of the reasons that I developed a specialty and got the certifications in corrective exercise is because of my own experience with injuries,
Right.
because I was pursuing the traditional exercise, doing a lot of things most people think, come to mind when people think of exercise, things like walking or running. I was going to the gym and I was lifting weights. What I wasn't doing was making sure that my alignment was proper. So, like, I had the right gait while I was walking or running. I had the right form
Absolutely.
while I was exercising and lifting weights, that my range of motion was good. One thing I tell a lot of clients is there are very simple tests that you can do just to see how your body is overall functioning from a movement standpoint. You should be able to get down into a squat and pick something up off the ground and lift that over your head. Obviously
I
a
got
relatively
you.
light.
Yeah.
So it's functional movement is another way of thinking about corrective exercise. It's just making sure you can move throughout life and do all the things that you want to do and need to do pain
Right.
free and not feel like you're at risk of injury. So that's something I coach a lot of clients with. And also a whole section of my book is not just on traditional exercise, but on these sort of subsets of exercise like mobility and flexibility and range of motion and very simple things you can do at home just to get rid of joint pain or just feel more flexible, more limber, because that's a major component to exercise.
And I think it's a major, major component to exercise. I like the way I watched one of your videos, and I like the way you kind of like conjoined the mindset with the corrective, because like sometimes your mind will tell you like this, you can't do this because you had an injury. You know what I'm saying? So I just like the way like you were talking in one of the videos, and I was like, oh, that's wonderful. Because I think the mindset in people want to exercise. Like you said, the body wants to be healthy. That's just something natural that we want. But then we get afraid because I can't squat and bring this thing over my head because guess what? I hurt my back in 78 or you know
Right.
what I'm saying? So I feel like a lot of times when I'm talking to people, they are looking for someone who supports with that corrective, those corrective function, those range emotions and the things that people don't talk about as much now. So I really like that you do talk about that and that's something that you specialize in.
Yeah. And one reason I think it's so important is for a lot of people, if you're not exercising that much and you're wanting to exercise, rather than jumping full into 5 days a week at the gym or trying to go for
Mhm.
runs, I think the best place to start is with corrective exercise or functional movement. So, really light exercise, things like yoga or light stretching or just getting down on the ground and getting into different positions, especially if you have kids, you get down and sort of play with them just to really test, where am I limber? Where am I tight? I think that feedback will give you a lot of information on where you should invest your time and energy. And starting with things like walking or, again, light stretching, yoga. So I always encourage people, start small, get that foundation established, and then build up. I mean, you hear a lot of people online talking about, you got to go to the gym, you got to be doing progressive overload and strength training. And those all have a role. They're really important, but it's really
Right.
the foundational movement principles that should be first and foremost.
Right, absolutely. And I like that you do talk about that a lot. So I know it's probably in your book a lot too that will help people understand because sometimes I hear people go from like having a car accident to therapy and from therapy right into the gym.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Can you do that? Are you supposed to be doing that? Did they stretch you out far enough?" You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So, and I have 2 sons that play sports. One of them hurt his knee a couple of years ago, and I keep telling him, like, "I just don't feel like you're stretching enough. I don't feel like you're doing enough, like, range of motion is why you're not getting the results that you want," which is very important, but I think it's here with him at this point, so
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great advice you gave him.
yeah, I try. I'm not the professional, you are, but I got a little common sense is what
We're,
I have.
we're all on the journey at different stages,
Right.
right?
Right. How can you educate, how can education technology improve access to wellness and prevent people from feeling excluded by, price or healing? Because what if I'm your client or I watch the show and I say, "Hey, I wanna work with him. How can I work with you? Like, is this an online thing or where do I have to be to do this?"
Yeah, no, good question. So I've opted to do it entirely online
Yeah.
just because it allows me to do more for my clients. As I tell people, you can go to the gym and you can work with a personal trainer, and there's amazing benefit that you can get from that. But for most people, that means you're just getting that support while you're at the gym.
Mhm.
Because I do things online, I do sleep, I do have kids, but I am basically in my client's back pocket 24/7 to help them with things. So a lot of it is video based. A lot of it is helping them through, like I get on video calls like this, and I'm talking with clients about important principles and helping them customize them and implement them to their lives. So it's all done online. And before I work with anybody, just like anything, you need to make sure that it's the right fit. And so a lot of times I just get on introductory calls with people to talk to them about what they're going through, what kind of struggles they're facing, what kind of short and long-term goals they have. And
Right.
even if it's not a fit, I really like being able to try and point people in the right direction, to send them resources or videos or other coaches that might be a better fit for them. And
Right.
then again, if there's a fit, then I typically walk people through kind of what that looks like and how long we work together, the details that go into it, the goals we have, all of that stuff. But yeah, it's all online. And I think that allows me to do more. So I've really enjoyed that.
Absolutely. And you have a background in economics. How do you view wellness industry? Where do you think it helps and where does it fail people?
Yeah, interesting question. So initially went to college and got an economics degree, thinking I'll do something in the world of finance because that's where people make money, right? I was like just
Right.
completely oblivious to, I didn't know anything about the world. So I came out of college, didn't work in economics, but worked in the media industry. I worked in education technology. I ended up in the social impact space to help with like corporate social responsibility, philanthropy. And then I was going through this health journey. And so I just started learning more and more about health and wellness and how we approach health and wellness, especially in the United States. And I think the background in economics and sort of understanding the incentive structures to just generally businesses, especially for-profit businesses, really opened my eyes to why people get so frustrated with the healthcare system, just because the incentive structure is not set up to optimize for patients to get fully healthy and leave the system. That's
absolutely is not
how it works, right? And I know a bunch of people that work in traditional medicine that are amazing people, hearts of gold. They are there because they really care about helping people, but they're working in a larger apparatus that's not really structured for them to do so. So I think that background gave me some really interesting insights, just looking at the overall system and business structures of even like a hospital system, being able to look at the incentive structure and feel like this is not structured in a way that's good for the patients, or quite frankly, good for the providers, because the providers don't feel like they're giving quality care sometimes. So
they know they're not, right?
My wife's a provider, so we talk about this a lot.
Yeah. And they want to, because they have a heart for it. So it's kind of like they get a little, we have to do this, but I really want to do this thing. So hopefully she feels fulfilled, because I talk to a lot of healthcare providers and they don't feel fulfilled all the time, every day when they go to work. And they want to do more. In your book though, so did you just write this book, or is this book a few months old, or when did you write the book?
So I started working on it probably 5 years ago, and it was only until roughly a year ago, it's about when my daughter turned 1, that I felt like now is the time to get this book out into the world. So it was officially released right around Thanksgiving. So it was end of November. So it's been 2 months roughly that it's been out. And I've been super grateful because feedback has been overwhelmingly positive from people. And you know, writing a book, I got a bunch of feedback from people, but you never know. You're like, are people just blowing smoke up my ass? So I'm really just grateful. A lot of the feedback has been very positive, because I put a lot of the protocols and the frameworks and the tips that I give clients, even things like the mindset. I have these little sections in each chapter called mental models, which is very similar to what we're talking about, where it's like you have these algorithms going on in your brain for how you view certain things in your life. And so I inserted these into chapters to try and help people just reframe the perspective that they have on whatever topic the chapter's about, whether it's about sleep or corrective exercise or nutrition. And so, so feedback's been great. I've been really grateful for that.
And so when you say like the longevity lifestyle is like, this is a movement. So you have the book, you have your coaching, and then you have this movement. In the book, if we're going to talk about your favorite chapter, which chapter would you say would be your favorite? This is it, Demasha. I knew this was going to be a winning chapter. Which chapter would you say?
I think it's the last chapter. And the focus of the last chapter is one that surprises people. The title is, I think, The True Fountain of Youth, or The Fountain of Youth. And the punchline is basically that curiosity is the fountain of youth. And initially, a lot of people react, what do you mean? And then they start to come around to realize that the reason that curiosity contributes to longevity and health is because in order to make change in your life, you have to be curious enough to ask the questions and to ask, well, what if I did this thing, or how could I do this thing, versus I can't do this thing, right? So curiosity, when people are really curious, I just find that they engage with life on a deeper level, and they are more open to different perspectives. Like you said earlier, they want to make changes. They just want to know things. They want to ask really important questions. And by doing so, lifelong, that just results in people uncovering gold, just getting these answers that they never would have gotten to if they weren't curious enough to ask the questions and keep digging. So that's probably
Absolutely.
my favorite chapter.
What is one of your success stories working with clients? What is like your favorite? This is like, this really transitioned their life.
Oh my gosh. I'm very grateful to have a lot of them, but I'll just go with the one that popped into my head first. So, guy I used to work with, his name was Joe. He's become a good friend of mine. And when we initially got talking about health, this was long before I actually started the business. And I was just trying to give him tips and advice. And it was actually helping me sharpen some of the frameworks that I give clients and help them with.
Right.
Fast forward a couple of years later, I'm now doing this full time. This is a few years ago. And he reaches out, we connect, we jump on a bunch of calls, we start working together, and we worked together for about a year. He lost over 100 pounds. And the thing that was most fulfilling to me wasn't just the outcome. It was that he and I are friends now. Like, we keep in touch. And every time I talk to him, he's either at the same weight or continuing to lose weight. And my
Right.
goal as a coach, there is nothing more rewarding than feeling like I've actually helped somebody better understand their body and their mind and
Right.
implement changes on their own terms, right? My
Ab-
job as a coach is not to take credit for these changes. It is to help people get to these changes on their own. And so the true indicator that that has happened is when somebody leaves the program and continues to get results and continues to be able to overcome challenges. So that's probably one of my most rewarding success stories, just because he's changed his life and he's going to live a healthier, longer life because of all the stuff that he's done and continues to do on his own.
Right, right. So you said that you actually lost some weight too, like you were overweight and you decided like, "Hey, I got to start this movement," you know? What did you do? How did you condition your mind mentally to prepare for what was happening in your life?
Honestly, I think it was forced upon me by pain, which is
Ooh,
unfortunate, but you'll hear people say pain is the most powerful motivator. And
mm,
I just reached a breaking point where my career was starting to get derailed. My relationships were being sidelined just because I was always needing these surgeries. I was in chronic pain all the time. And it was
right.
just making me miserable. I started to really feel depressed and hopeless. I felt like I'm only in my mid 20s and my body is just completely failing me. And so I think that was really the motivator, to look in the mirror and say, I have to stop asking other people to give me the answer. I just have to go try and find
Mm,
the answer. And so I just turned to reading and I started reading tons and tons of books about health. I mean, I probably for the last 10 years have read like 30 or 40 books per year, and a lot of them are health related. But it gives me the opportunity to see different perspectives and learn new things about the human body. So I think it was pain that started the trajectory, and now it's passion. Just feeling like I want to help other people get out of or avoid that same situation of feeling hopeless or desperate or in pain. And so that's really what I'm trying to do with the movement, is not just work one-on-one with clients, not just, get my book out there, but really help with a ripple effect. There's nothing better when I hear clients saying that they're sharing the stuff that we're working on with their kids or their spouse, or they're
absolutely.
sending, videos I share. Because one thing for me, I don't gatekeep anything. It's like if I send one of my clients something, I'm like, share this with everybody you know, right?
Right.
This is not about like, well, make sure I get a cut. No, I want people to actually have this information, because I believe we're in a place society wide where people need that. There's a lot of people that really are feeling lost when it comes to their health. And so that's why for me, this is really all about a movement, and it's become an extreme passion of mine.
I love that. And I love that for you because you do seem very passionate about it. This is something that you seem to love to do. I think that people sometimes when you say, "Oh, I'm a coach," people think that this is an easy job, and it's not an easy job. It's really a very hard job, and you have to not only support someone in their conditioning, because like you said, it's not me doing the work, it's you doing the work. I'm just putting the tools there for you to do the work, and you're doing the
Exactly.
work. I think that people forget that, hey, they are really, like, taking a big part of them, and investing in me as well. So if I don't invest in me, then all the work that they done is kind of null and void. And I have one more question for you, and then I'm gonna let you say whatever you need to say to the audience. If you have a client, because I find that this is a big thing, especially even with my clients, and I'm always looking for someone to send them to when they want to get into this weight loss journey. Um, but if they lose the weight, they're losing the weight. But when they look in the mirror, they still see that maybe 300-pound unhealthy person who probably smokes cigarettes. How do you support them in that?
Yeah, so I think that's a really important question because the beliefs that we have about ourselves are a major determining factor in how we act. So another way that I'll explain this is your brain is always looking for evidence in your life, right?
Right.
If you're trying to quit smoking cigarettes, for example, and you keep saying out loud, I'm trying to quit smoking cigarettes. I really need to quit. But you keep smoking cigarettes. No matter how much you engage your conscious brain in the desire to quit, your subconscious mind is always keeping tabs saying, well, you keep smoking. So I
Right.
don't know. I don't know if I fully believe. And
Right.
so the stories that we tell ourselves and the actions that we take on a daily basis, that is what provides the evidence for our subconscious mind and ultimately builds our identity.
Right.
So for anybody that's looking in the mirror and feeling like, oh my gosh, I have so much weight to lose, I need to quit smoking, my recommendation for people is to find a series of things that I like to call the minimum viable action, which
Mm.
is what is the smallest thing that you can do in your life today and tomorrow and the next day that's going to start stacking evidence for your brain to witness the person you're trying to become. So even if that is one healthy meal per day, even if that is one less cigarette per day, if you can do that minimum viable action, and then over time, that becomes a slightly bigger action, that's how you
Right.
start to build motivation and really reinvent your identity. It does not happen overnight. That's why you hear of people that say, I tried to quit cold turkey. I've gone on 20 different diets. Nothing seems to work for me.
Right.
It's a lot of times it's because people try to bite off more than they can chew. So by finding that minimum viable action and then starting to give yourself evidence, that's what allows you to sort of rewire and recreate those beliefs that in that internal story that you tell about yourself and ultimately your identity.
Absolutely. And I can attest to that. And so I try to teach that, but I'm finding that with weight loss, it's a little bit different. Excuse me. It's a little bit different for clients who, they lose the weight and they look amazing. And you could say you look amazing, but then they still have those days where it's like they look in the mirror and they'll say, like, Marsha, I don't see that person that you see. I still see the old person. And I want to explain to them that, mindset does not change overnight. It's like little by little. It took me 15 years to change my life, to become another person,
Yeah.
so it just happens step by step. Um, so I don't want to negate this is because this is your time. And so is there anything that you would like to share that we did not get to the question about? Something you want to support with, or just how people can reach out to you or anything like that?
Yeah. So I'll give people one piece of advice that I think is something that's really empowering and helpful. And then I'll kind of tell people where they can find me. So no matter what you're dealing with in life right now, no matter what challenges that you've come across, we live in this era of information abundance. And that's double sided, right? It's very easy to succumb to information overload. But if you can really zero in on what you're dealing with, whichever challenges, and you're willing to go out there, somebody out there has already dealt with an almost identical or identical challenge, and they've either solved it for themselves
Right.
or they're a couple steps ahead of you. And a large percentage of those people have shared that, how they figured that out. right? So part of this information abundance is such a gift for us because no matter what you're going through, somebody out there has solved it and they've shared their experience. And so if you're somebody that's feeling hopeless or you're not knowing where to start or you're just trying to get healthier, highly encourage you to go out there and try and find somebody. Like, it's part of the reason I wrote this book, to give people a resource. It's the book that I wish that I picked up first when I was laying in the bed after my hip surgery, right? And regardless of if it's my book or somebody else's book or a different podcast, if you go out there and you're really willing to search and find the person that has solved what you're going through already and is sharing that information, you're going to save yourself so much time and energy because somebody's already walked that path. And, you know, it still takes work to recover from anything or overcome challenges, but it's a lot easier when somebody out there is giving you a map for it.
Absolutely. Oh, I have one more question because I forgot this question and I thought about it just now again. You said that there were some basic things that you need for health and that you learned. What would you mind sharing at least two of those basic things? I know like they're probably in the book, so I want people to get the book. But what were the basic things that you said like this is going to help me change of life?
Of course. Well, the entire book is meant to be the basics, right? Like I don't go super in depth into the science. I do reference some interesting studies and stories to keep it really engaging as you're reading, but the book is really about nailing the basics. I think one that is becoming more well recognized as a basic necessity is sunlight. I think people overlook the need for sunlight. We as a species are batteries for light. We do not the full photosynthesis cycle, but a big portion of it. And so I think there was a study recently that was really scary. It showed like people spend 93% of their time indoors. And by the way, hand up, I'm one of those people. I live the same life as most, like, right? This is what my job and my family requires.
Right.
But if you can be really intentional about getting some sunlight on a daily basis, within reason, right? You don't want to burn. And if you're living in New England like me and there's 1.5 feet of snow outside, it can be somewhat challenging to get sunlight. Right. But sunlight is an essential nutrient, just like the protein you get in your diet or the healthy fats that you get in your diet. So that's one I think is a basic necessity for people that's really overlooked. There also used to be, there's so many cool historical examples. There's a reason that all of these ancient societies, they have sun gods. There's a reason that throughout, I believe it was World War II, maybe even World War I, they had what are called heliotherapy clinics where soldiers that were injured were basically kept outside to allow the sunlight to hit them because they would heal faster. There's studies looking at hospital rooms that have windows with the patients healing faster. It's unbelievable. I talk about a lot of this in the book because I find it to be so interesting. But sunlight is one, and I would put nature also as in that same category. Like we need nature as a species, being around green space and fresh air.
Yes.
Another one that I would say was really helpful for me is taking breaks from food. So a lot of people talk online about intermittent fasting, right?
Right.
And when you think about it, just from take a step back, let's just think about how our ancestors lived, right?
Right.
They did not have access to food the way that we do now.
The way that we do now.
Process, right? And so I always find that's one of the first things that I tell people, client or somebody online that DMs me that's like, hey, I'm having trouble losing weight or I'm really inflamed. One of the first things I ask is how often are you eating? Regardless of what you're eating. Our ancestors did not have food around the clock. So our bodies have adapted to thrive when we have these cycles of feast and famine. And so what better strategy than taking short breaks from food to allow your body to metabolize what you've already eaten, to allow inflammation to go down, for your immune system to rev up. I mean, there's so many amazing things physiologically that happen when you take breaks from food. But the other benefit is it's free. Like it's so accessible to people. And so that's one that I think is almost everybody out there. I mean, if you're pregnant or, trying to get pregnant, you don't necessarily want to be doing that. But intermittent fasting, taking breaks from food, that's one that almost everybody can benefit from. And it's actually not as challenging as it seems. Once you try it a couple times, you start to realize I've been eating around the clock because some food marketers told me that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. And I'm doing just fine occasionally skipping meals, right?
Right. Absolutely. I love that. And I love all of the ones that you share because sun is important. I tend to forget because I do work for myself. So I work at home, of course. So I'm at the computer most of the time. Except for I do sound bowls and Reiki. And I usually do that outside. So I even though I have some of my sound bowls set up in the house, but I like to be outside. Nature, very important. I love that. But the fasting was my favorite because you don't understand how many times I tell people like they're having a problem. My first thing is like, why don't you just fast?
Yeah.
It's just literally probably what you're eating, and you may need to let your digestive system digest. But I love that. And I love that you shared those with us because now I'm not the only one on here saying it. People are not like, oh, she's always saying that. It works. It literally works.
It really does. One thing that a lot of my clients use as like just a reset is we have a culture where people tend to get off of their routines on the weekend, right? You might be in a pretty good routine during the week, and then the weekend comes around and maybe you're getting together with people, you're eating fast food, you're ordering out, whatever. You're doing stuff that's outside your routine. I tell all my clients that intermittent fasting is just a tool. You don't need to be perfect with it. It's not like you need to fast every single day. But one of the easiest ways to offset bad decisions from a nutrition standpoint is by fasting, right? You eat a ton of food on Saturday or Sunday. Sunday or Monday is the day that you give your body a little bit of a break because it needs that break to be able to metabolize that food. So it's stuff like that I think is so accessible for people. And I'm very grateful that a lot more people are becoming aware of it and talking about it out loud. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think part of the reason it hasn't been talked about so much is like, you're not going to profit from telling people to eat less, right? But it's such an important practice that people should be aware of and doing because it's free. It basically saves you money. I mean, there's pretty much only upside.
Right. And I try to explain that to people. I'm like, just think about it. Now, everybody's complaining about the food is fake. I said, so if the food is fake, if you give yourself a couple of days to digest it, what goes in must come out, let it all come out, and then you can go back to eating your fake food if you want to, if that's your choice, like that's your choice. But I think it's very important to fast and abstain from food a little bit because our ancestors did not have food like all over the place, so it was just kind of like if you were hungry, you got to eat a leaf,
Yeah.
Leaf.
Interestingly, they've done a bunch of studies on fasting, and some of the more consistent results have shown that you get more benefit from intermittent fasting when you're eating processed foods. And that's probably just because they're more of a pull on your metabolism, right? They just require more to digest. They're just heavier. Your body's not used to them. But the studies out there really indicate that there's even more of a benefit using intermittent fasting when you're eating processed food.
Right. And I also thank you for saying those things because I think each of those things help too with the mindset. It helps you with that clarity of mind, going out in that sun, you start thinking in that nature, you start listening to the birds chirp and you start looking at the trees and you start thinking, you're processing. And then when you're abstaining from that food, because people don't realize the gut and the mind, they go together, So if you got all that gucky stuff in your stomach, then you got a lot of gucky stuff in your mind too, which makes a lot of sense. But
nature is such a powerful mental reset. It's unbelievable. Even just 10 minutes sitting out in nature and just reflecting, it really makes you zoom out, makes you think big picture about how we're all part of the earth. And, as humans, we tend to have this egocentric or anthropocentric perspective. Egocentric meaning I'm the center of the universe. Anthropocentric meaning humans are the center of the universe. Absolutely. But really the ecocentric perspective, meaning we are just a part of the ecosystem.
That's it.
what you gain by being out in nature for a little bit, because you're just quickly reminded, like, man, when my life's over, I'm going right back into the ground. I'm going to be part of this tree. This tree's going to outlive me by like hundreds of years.
Absolutely. And this is, and that's why I'm so, when I was reading your bio, I was like, oh, this is nice. I was like, okay. So then I started watching your videos and I was like, okay, this is good. This is good. So tell the people though, where are the social platforms they can find you? Because for whatever reason, people like to investigate. So they see you on the show, now they're going to investigate you.
Yeah,
And
of
then
course.
they'll call you like, hey, I need you.
I'm pretty much on every single social platform. So I post a lot on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. So whatever people prefer. I post on Facebook too. So I'm pretty much on every platform. You can search Andrew Panella. I think my handle is longevity_edu on most of them. But if you search Andrew Panella, I should be pretty easy to find on some of those. But I post on almost every platform every day.
Love. And if they want to get the book, should they go to Amazon for the book, or do you have your book on your website? How do you prefer?
Yeah, easiest way to do it is just to go to Amazon. If you just search the longevity lifestyle, it should come up, or the longevity lifestyle, Andrew Panella, it should come up on Amazon.
Okay, great. So on Zipmouth Motivation, Andrew, I always like, before the guests go, I love for them to leave the audience like with a nugget or their favorite quote or something to like get them to the next day or next week, or just something, so it could be anything that you want, but this is your time.
All right. A favorite quote. All right. I'm going to give a favorite quote. I don't know how this popped into my head, but I'm just going to go with it. One of the easiest ways that you can improve your life is to surround yourself with people that believe in you even more than you believe in yourself. Mm-hmm. Surround yourself with people that challenge you, that make you better, that desperately want to see you win. And when you do win, they are cheering and they are celebrating for you. Don't surround yourself with people that are envious or jealous. Really surround yourself with people that have big dreams for you, bigger dreams than even you have.
Awesome. And I love that. I was just talking about that in one of my groups today, how it is important to surround yourself with a certain type of people in order to make it to that next level. So do you have any questions, any concern, anything else you would like to share while we're here?
So Dee, I wanted to ask you earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt you. You asked me, what's a mindset, either reframe or a technique that you share with clients. You're the motivation and mindset expert. I want to hear from you. What is your top piece of advice that you give to somebody that's struggling with behavior change or identity change or having those limiting beliefs?
Right now I'm in this push phase. And so we don't have time to play, we don't have time to play. If you look at society, and you look at the people in society and the government and just different things that are happening in society, we don't have time to play. It's time to push. It's no longer about emotion, because a lot of times we don't feel like doing it. We don't feel it. We feel like we don't see the results. So for the ones who believe in faith, have faith. For the ones who believe in meditation, meditate and see that thing, feel it, taste it, know that it's there, and keep going. You have to be able to surpass what you feel and what you see in order to be successful. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just telling people to push, no matter what, push.
I love it. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yes, that is my new thing. I don't know why. I'm not aggressive at all, and I'm really an introvert. So, like, very much so. I only talk on the internet. I don't talk in person. Is why they call me Zipmouth. But I'm on this big thing of like, it's time to push. There are so many like you, a coach, very successful, very like you are. Just the energy that I feel from you is so passionate and so like loving, but so controlled also, it's like you know what to do and people see you and they know you know what to do, but then they're afraid of you. They're afraid of, I don't know. They don't know. But my whole hope is that, people see you on the show and they see you on your social platforms, and that this year is the most successful year for you. Because I watch people and I watch people more than they think I watch them. So, but you are very good at what you do. And I hope this year is more successful than any year, because this is your year. Okay. Like I feel that in my soul. This is your year. And I don't know why I'm telling you that, but this is your year. So you
Well,
push
thank
too.
you. I really appreciate that. Success to me is predicated on my ability to help other people. So
Mhm.
my success is rooted in the success of other people and their health improvements and their empowerment. So
Yes.
I appreciate that. That's why I'm all about the movement aspect of longevity lifestyle, because the ripple effect is so real. Even when I
Right.
talk to parents or people that are frustrated with loved ones and not being able to get them to change, I tell them the same thing that everybody's heard before. Be the example. Be the example, because you will make other people around you more motivated. You'll inspire people. And we need that. As you said, it's the time to push. If you're
It's
frustrated, now is the time to really take the reins and make change that you want.
And I wanted to say this to you too. Uh, when the night that you scheduled your show, I saw you, and then I read, like I saw the notification and I read what you did, and then I was like, oh, I'll go look at his social media tomorrow. And so when I was talking to someone on the phone and I was saying to him, "You remember when people used to live to like 121, 120?" I said, "Now they got like Social Security at like 67 or some, I don't know. I'm not old enough to know about Social Security, but they got it at some age, like 60 something years old. And like people are upset about it, right? They're like, I'm mad that but I remember like people who were like 67 were still doing things like riding bicycle. They were still like bungee jumping and doing like exciting things. So turning 67 was like, not a big deal. It was like,
Yeah,
am I going to make it to 100? You know? So what you're doing is, I feel like you're giving us that, and maybe it's just a small piece of the pie, but you're giving us that ability to make it to 100 again, to make it to
absolutely.
121.
If I can do that, if I can help a single person live to 100, I would be absolutely thrilled. But like I
Right.
said, it's them doing it.
It's
I can
them.
be a guide, a coach, an educator, but it's really about other people taking that information and running with it. And
Right.
in my book, I have a bunch of stories about 100 plus year olds. There's a guy who became a bodybuilder in his mid 90s. I absolutely love that story. And so I opened one of the chapters with him just to say, you can build strength and engage in movements like this, no matter what age you are.
It
So
doesn't matter.
yeah, I love that. I think everybody, there's so many empowering elements to what our bodies are capable of with small lifestyle changes. So that's really my goal, is to help people leverage the ones that are going to be the most helpful for them so that they can live the longest and healthiest life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Andrew, I could probably talk your ear off because generally I do that when people come on the show. But I was trying to contain myself because I wanted your information to get out there. But I do appreciate you for coming on the show. I hope that you come back again, especially when this book makes a top seller, or when you get your first client to 100. You know what I'm saying? Whenever, you are always welcome back on the show. Um, I do appreciate your time, though, your energy, and I appreciate what you do. So, if there's nothing else you can have to say, then we're gonna get up out of here and let these people do what they do. And I don't think I have any more questions. I'm always thinking because my brain's always going like this. But I do appreciate you for coming on the show and taking this time out of your schedule, especially how old is your baby? Is your baby young?
Yeah, so I have a 2-year-old who I hear screaming in the other room, and then my wife is due with our second in 2 months or less.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
congratulations. Well, I have almost adult children, so But thank you for taking the time out with little ones, because I know your wife's probably like, okay, is he
Of
done yet?
course, of course. And as much as it's important for me to help empower and inspire other people, some of what I do is obviously driven by wanting to inspire my family and my kids someday. So
Absolutely. You're already doing it. Someday is here right now, Andrew. I promise you. Someday is here right now.
well,
When your kids get big, they'll remember like things like this. My kids remember. They're like, "Mom, remember you were on TV in Alabama and you were talking about." I'm like, "You were like 5. You remember that?"
well, now all of it lives online probably forever. So we'll see how
Absolutely.
that goes. They'll be watching these videos when they're, in their 70s or something.
Right. Like, look at our dad. But you know what? It's all worth it. It is all worth it. But I do
Absolutely.
appreciate your time and thank you for coming on. Like I said, you're always welcome back. And everybody out there in TV world or YouTube world or Facebook world or whatever world you're in, thank you all for watching the show. Thank you all for everything that you do. And y'all know, as usual, I love y'all. I respect y'all. And if you want to come on the show, just DM me. It's really easy. I'll send you the link and you just come on and tell your story. And we're here to listen. Anything else you want to say, Andrew, before we click on out of here?
No, Dee, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. I had a lot of fun, and what you're doing is amazing. I love that you're just out here and you've been doing it since 2015, just motivating people and teaching people about mindset and helping people become the best version of themselves. I think the world needs more people like that. So keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you.